We have always asked the wrong question. Not, are we alone, but rather, if they exist, what do they look like? What do they breathe? How do they move through a sky that is not ours? For 70 years, the answer was silence. Equations. Radio dishes pointed at nothing. Then, quietly, the data changed. In April of 2025, astronomers at the University of Cambridge used the James Webb Space Telescope to detect the chemical fingerprints of dimethyl sulfite and dimethyl disulfide in the atmosphere of a world called K2-18b, 120 light-years away. On Earth, those molecules are produced by one thing only: life. The scientists were careful. They did not say life. They said the most promising biosignature yet detected outside our solar system. The strongest hint: a door ajar. But what does a door ajar look like? On the other side. We gave an AI everything: NASA's exoplanet archives, ocean world habitability models, extremophile biology, atmospheric physics, evolutionary theory, and 40 years of SETI signal data. We asked it to simulate a civilization, not to invent one, to extrapolate from the science what plausibly exists. What it built was not science fiction. It was science. The planet the AI designated Lumen 9 is a Hycean world, a class of planet that NASA astrobiologists have identified as among the most likely candidates for hosting life. A planet-wide liquid ocean. A hydrogen-rich atmosphere that traps heat. No surface to stand on, just water all the way down. The sky is not blue. The dominant star, an M dwarf, a red dwarf star, which NASA identifies as the most common stellar type in the galaxy, bathes everything in amber infrared light. The atmosphere glows like a bruise at sunset. Tidal forces from a large moon create permanent storm cycles across the equatorial belt. But in the calmer mid-latitudes, something extraordinary happens. The surface ocean pulses with bioluminescent organisms, photosynthesizers that evolved to capture the dim infrared radiation of the red dwarf by producing their own internal light cycles. Science tells us this is not fantastical. On Earth, bioluminescence evolved independently at least 40 separate times. Beneath the surface, a world within a world. At the ocean floor, hydrothermal vents push chemical energy upward. In our own solar system, Saturn's moon Enceladus shows exactly this. Molecular hydrogen streaming from a deep ocean floor, exactly the kind of chemistry that NASA has described as fuel that could be used by biology. Europa, Jupiter's moon, likely has a similar system. The AI modeled Lumen 9's ocean floor after both of them. Life did not start on the surface here. It started in the dark. Evolution does not follow a blueprint, but it does follow physics. The dominant species on Lumen 9 is bilaterally symmetrical. This is not artistic choice. Evolutionary biologists argue bilateral symmetry is near universal among mobile organisms because it maximizes efficiency of forward movement. Oxford researchers have written that convergent evolution would produce similar fundamental structures on most inhabited worlds. The eyes are disproportionately large. The red dwarf provides roughly 1/10 the visible light of our sun. Evolution selects for light capture. The skin, translucent at the extremities, contains distributed photoreceptive cells, allowing the organism to sense light direction with its entire body. The abdomen contains a gill chamber system that processes alternating gulps of water, extracting dissolved oxygen and expelling excess hydrogen. It is a genius of energy management, but it also, Lumen 9's chemistry, is influenced by the sedent.
The hands are adapted for both aquatic propulsion and precision manipulation. 6 digits, the number is arbitrary. On Earth, the tetrapod ancestor had 8. The functional requirement, a grip for tool use, is not. Communication is not acoustic in the deep. The species communicates primarily through controlled bioluminescent signaling across the skin, patterns that shift in real time, carrying semantic content at speeds no spoken language can match. The AI assigned this species a name, the Lumeni, Whether that is poetic or scientific is a question for philosophers. The physics is not in dispute. The circulatory system compensates for deep pressure environments. The nervous system is distributed, nodes throughout the body rather than a single centralized brain, similar to the architecture of the octopus, the most cognitively capable invertebrate on Earth. Look into an eye like this and you understand what it means to be built by a different sun. The Lumeni did not build on land. There is no land. They built in the midwater column, anchoring structures to the thermocline boundary, the stable layer where warm and cold water meet, a city that floats in permanent equilibrium. The architecture is grown, not constructed. The building material is a hardened biological secretion, analogous to coral, but modular, engineered. The structures have been shaped by generations of intentional genetic modification of the secreting organism. The interior of the city glows with distributed bioluminescent infrastructure, no electric lighting because the organisms themselves produce it. Entire districts shift color temperature with the alien day cycle. Inside a residence, you find objects that are unmistakably personal. The AI flagged a high probability that any civilization that develops tool use also develops material culture, objects with symbolic rather than functional value. Alien archaeology before the archaeology. Information storage is biological. The AI simulated a living data architecture, organisms bred to hold and transmit information the way neurons hold memory. The entire city is, in effect, a distributed mind. Food is chemosynthetic, derived from engineered microbial production. There are no plants. There are no animals kept for consumption. The energy supply is the thermal gradient of the ocean itself. And there is something that functions as family, not identical to ours, but recognizable. The AI flagged this as a statistical near certainty. Any species that raises its young invests in social structure. Social structure produces culture. Culture produces civilization. Everything they built toward the light of a star they have never seen directly, only inferred from the glow that reaches them through a kilometer of water. For a civilization born in water, the sky is the final frontier. The AI designed the primary aircraft on first principles, magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion. This is not science fiction. Magneto-hydrodynamic drives use electromagnetic fields to accelerate charged plasma or fluid. No moving parts, no combustion, no exhaust. Physicists have demonstrated this principle in seawater here on Earth. In a hydrogen-rich atmosphere, the same principle extends to flight. The hull is coated in a superconducting biological material, an engineered organism that maintains near-zero electrical resistance. The electromagnetic field it generates repels and redirects atmospheric molecules. The craft moves through the air the way a magnet moves through a field. No thrust, no wings, no exhaust. At altitude, the craft transitions to a different mode, plasma thrust in the thin upper atmosphere. At exospheric boundary, it can leave the planet entirely. The simulation assigned it a theoretical maximum velocity of approximately 3% the speed of light in open space. There is no cockpit in the way we understand it. The pilot is the craft. Control is neural, via direct bioluminescent interface with the ship's distributed processing network. No buttons, no screens. Thought becomes vector. The fleet is small. The Lumeni do not appear to be an expansionist civilization. The simulation models a species that developed interplanetary capability for resource access and scientific inquiry, not conquest. Their first launches were probably scientific missions to their own moons. But then again, that is what we told ourselves, before 1969 became Apollo, before science became something else entirely. And here, the simulation reaches the edge of its certainty. Beyond this point, we are no longer extrapolating from physics. We are standing at the edge of what an AI or anyone can know. Here is what the public record shows. In 2023, a former U.S. intelligence official testified under oath before Congress that the government had been in possession of non-human craft and non-human biological material for decades. He spoke under the same legal protections afforded to national security whistleblowers. In 2025, NASA's own James Webb Space Telescope data pointed to molecules on K2-18b that are produced on Earth exclusively by living organisms. The official response was, "We need more data." More data, for a signal thousands of times stronger than anything previously detected in any exoplanet atmosphere. We are not claiming a cover-up. We are observing a pattern. Discovery accelerates, language decelerates. The instruments get sharper, the statements get more cautious. The gap between what instruments detect and what is officially acknowledged has never been wider or more politically visible. The AI was asked to model the probability that a technological civilization at our development level, upon detecting evidence of another civilization, would make that information immediately public. The model returned a low probability, Not because governments are malicious, because the implications, scientific, philosophical, religious, economic, are so total that institutions slow down by default. The weight of the answer is heavier than the mechanism of announcement. Consider it from the other direction. If the Lumeni exist, if they have reached the interplanetary stage, if their instruments are pointed inward toward our star, they would see our radio missions from 12,000 light-years away, according to 2025 calculations. They would see atmospheric nitrogen dioxide signatures from our industrial activity. They would see our city lights. They would see us. And they might be having this same conversation, running their own simulation, asking, what does this civilization look like? How do they breathe? How do they move? Do they know that we are watching?
We cannot verify the Lumeni. The simulation is exactly what it says it is. A model. A rigorous, science-grounded, peer-reviewed aligned model. But a model. But consider what it is built from. Actual biosignature data from JWST. Actual hydrothermal vent biology. Actual evolutionary convergence theory. Actual magnetohydrodynamic physics. Actual astrobiology frameworks from NASA. The speculation is the skin. The science is the skeleton. And every year, the skeleton gets more complete. K218b in 2025, Europa Clipper in the mid-2020s, the Habitable Worlds Observatory projected for the 2040s, capable of detecting the spectroscopic signature of city lights on a planet 5 light-years away. We are building instruments that would be able to detect ourselves from the other side of the galaxy. What do we think we are going to find when we point them outward with enough resolution? Somewhere in the galaxy, statistically, almost certainly, there is a world like this one. A world shaped by water and a dim red star. A civilization that grew up in the dark and learned to make its own light. Beings who look nothing like us and understand the universe through senses we do not have. And perhaps they are asking whether the universe is listening. The simulation says it is.